Drake, no real reason to introduce a guy. Depending on who you're talking to, he's the GOAT, one of the best artists of our time. And if you're talking to another group of people, he's like the worst artist of our time, and he's awful and just horrendous. Not to be that guy, but I do think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. I don't think these two extremes are close to being accurate, but obviously music is subjective, and if you think he's the GOAT, fair. If you think he's the worst artist of all time, fair. As much as I do think he's put out some pretty terrible albums, I really didn't like Views, and I really didn't like Scorpion. Scorpion just felt like an extreme attempt to cheat the system with streaming. I think he knew what he was doing with that album, just flood as many songs onto one release as possible so that streaming catches it and makes it become a really successful selling album. Might be cynical, but I just don't understand how he put together an album like that and thought from start to finish it was perfect and there were no songs that were worth cutting. But it's Drake, and I think many mainstream artists or part of huge record labels do want to capitalize on things like that, so you can see why they do it. And the thing is that Drake has a lot of good songs, so I have faith in the fact that he could put out something that I genuinely really love. I think up until this point he hasn't. He's just one of those artists for me where I'll really enjoy a single every now and then. For example, Nice for What. I think that's a great track, but then he does this thing where he just focuses on drama type topics that don't really interest me and make the songs pretty dull. And he does this talk rapping thing a lot too, where I think, again, doesn't fit his style at all very well. I think if he's gonna do that, he may as well do one or the other, because Nice for What, he was just straight up rapping and he sounded great. And when he's just kind of singing, focusing more on the singing, he can sometimes sound great too. So I don't know why he tries blending both together. I honestly think it ends up hindering what could be great music. The first track on Scary Hours 2 sort of does attempt to blend both things here though. He's bringing in some pretty standard Drake things in the verses here. Not particularly that interested in what he's saying, but I think he sounds pretty good over this beat. I think the beat is pretty energetic, it's lively, and I'm not blown away by this, but I think it's a decent start to this. I'd take it over some of the more recent tracks from Drake. I don't think Tussie Slide is particularly very good, so I'd at least take it over that. There's still some typical things that he throws in though, like where he's talking about on New Year's he was doing this, and on Valentine's he was having sex. What's gonna happen next? It's just so typically Drake that it comes across really corny, but it's not like the worst thing in the world, because sometimes you just kind of can ignore the lyrics and just enjoy it for what it is. And I think this song is the epitome of that, really. Wants and Needs has a pretty weak hook. I wasn't really a fan of the way that his voice sounds on this one, and it's interesting where every time he has a feature on a song, I feel like he tries to mimic the style of the artist that he's got on the track. This time around, we've got Lil Baby on here, who I think actually steals the show. I think his verse works better for the beat than how Drake's voice sounds. I do think he brings an energy that Drake is lacking, to be honest, which isn't new for Drake. I think he often does try and do different styles of music, which I think is impressive to see an artist who's so mainstream, who is willing to be versatile. I think that's something he gets a bit underrated for. One of the biggest artists in the world isn't usually an artist you'd look at and think, oh, they're going to do this sound, and they're also going to try this, and they're also going to try this, and sometimes you can't even predict what they're going to do next. I don't think that's really common for an artist as big as Drake. But the issue is that he doesn't always manage to make it work. He just sounds like he's a bit of a chameleon, just kind of changing his colours depending on what's popular and what trend is in the mainstream at that time. And the chorus is exactly that for me. It just sounds like Nav or something, and he just sounds out of place in the lyrics as well, where he's like, I've got two girls at one time and they're both 10s. The verses don't help either way. It's rhyming Felicia and the teacher and Bisha and Bliblisha and all that crap. It just sounds really stupid. But Lil Baby comes through, definitely got the best part of the track, so I'm impressed with that. But one thing I'm not impressed with though is the freestyle, which has Rick Ross on it. somehow Drake makes Rick Ross look like a lyrical messiah. Only Drake could do that to Rick Ross, really. And this is why I'm just confused. I just don't know if Drake knows what his lane is sometimes. Like, hearing a song like this, I kind of wonder what Drake knows what his strengths are, because a freestyle, who wants a freestyle from Drake? I'm sorry, but he just isn't the rapper or the rapper to do this. I'm surprised his fans excuse the lyrics that he comes out with. I sent a child support, she sent me the heart emoji or whatever he says. The whole bit about Beyonce and Nicki Minaj. He'll just throw anything in there for a cheap brag, like anything just to name drop people that he knows because they're famous. It's like, oh, famous women, I know those famous women. Like, how simpy can you get? And the whole bit at the end, RIP dollar bill thing, and then he rhymes every line with ill, and it's just like mill, fill. Like, he literally is just thinking of the first thing that comes to his head that will rhyme. Like, it just doesn't make for good verses. Like, you want a good lyrical rapper to do this. You don't want Drake to do it because he's not that great at lyrics. And it's fine. You don't have to be the best lyrical, spiritual, miracle, blah, 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 like ever. Like, no one needs that on every track that they hear. I certainly don't need it. But for a freestyle, you want good bars. Who wants Drake freestyling? When he gives bars like this, they're all really weak. I just don't see the appeal to this. So yeah, this track really ruins and sours my taste of this whole thing overall. Because I'm not that big on the tracks previously anyway, but when this one comes on, I'm just ready to turn it off. I mean, Rick Ross is doing his thing. He's not adding anything amazing or unique for what we've heard from him in the past, but he's at least more interesting than Drake. So yeah, I guess this EP is once again just showing Drake's versatility, quote unquote versatility, because it doesn't really land very well in every place, which is a shame. But yeah, I don't know. I think someone needs to sit Drake down and say, look, these are your strengths, focus on these and do it for a whole album. And I think he'd put out something really good. But instead we get a freestyle, which I don't think anyone will listen to ever again once this week's over and the EP is kind of in the past. And a few other tracks which are solid, but they're not really that great. Like, I don't personally think I'd sit and listen to Wants and Needs ever again, or even the opening track, which isn't that bad, but it's just not that, like, it hasn't got like a spark to it. It doesn't light anything in me, which is a shame, because I think he's got something in him, but I just don't know. But anyway, it doesn't matter because he's huge. These will do huge numbers. My opinion is irrelevant at the end of the day. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. If you're a huge fan of his, what do you think? If you don't like him, what do you think? I just want to hear what you think of this EP, where he's going next with Certified Lover Boy, I think it is. We'll see what that sounds like, but the title isn't promising. But thank you for watching. Hope you have a good day, and goodbye.